I hope you're doing well today. I've got something really interesting to share with you guys. And I hope my connection's not weak. I'm in my office and I hope everything is okay and you guys can hear me. I've got something really interesting to share with you guys. This is a topic that comes up and I want to give you guys some clarification on this. So today I want to talk to you about the fact that there's no agreed upon standard for thyroid hormone ranges. And just think about this for a second. So let's kind of go through it. So some of the major organizations that help us to determine what's considered a healthy thyroid hormone ranges, right? The major organizations in the United States. You've got the Endocrine Society, the American Thyroid Association, and the American Academy of Family Physicians. So three major groups that get together and they say, hey, this is what we think are the ideal ranges for the different thyroid hormones, right? These three different major groups. Guess what? None of them agree on the same ranges. None of them agree on the same ranges. And further, what makes it even more challenging is that the labs across the country, none of the labs across the country agree upon, they have set ranges either. Those are all, they don't have any type of set of established ranges across the country. So whenever I see lab results from different labs, the reference ranges are almost always different. Almost always. So you start thinking about this and you're like, wait, well, if I'm diagnosed as hypothyroid or if I have low T4, low T3, in, let's say, in Illinois, and am I still hypothyroid in North Carolina or in California? Well, maybe not. Maybe not. And so it makes it really challenging. And you think about that for a second. Does that make sense? Can we not decide what's normal? What is it supposed to be? What are the thyroid hormone levels supposed to be? And so it's just really interesting when you start looking at this and you just realize how, it's how debatable and that these levels are. And what it really comes down to is that there's no consensus on these thyroid hormone levels. So one of the things that we try to do is we try to look at them based on ranges that from clinical experience, and then also from the American Academy of Clinical Chemists. We use more narrow ranges that are more representative of what we think are ideal thyroid hormone ranges. Here's another thing that's really interesting to keep in mind. When you start looking at thyroid hormone ranges, right? There's a low range, and then there's a high range. And then right in the middle, there's like the average. And if you look at it, what they do is they take all the people that go to one particular lab, and they take their results and they average them together, and they get, just like in statistics, they get a bell curve, right? So most people are grouped closer to the center. And then they determine, based on those labs, based on those statistics, the high and low ranges. They're using information based on those lab ranges are based on people that come to the lab to get their blood drawn, right? So what are most people doing that go to those labs and get their blood drawn? They're already taking thyroid hormone, and they're taking other medications that can affect thyroid hormone physiology. And what does that do? It skews those results. So you're being compared, guys. You're being compared to people that are taking medications that already alter thyroid hormone physiology and thyroid hormone levels. They're already taking thyroid hormone. So what's normal? You're being compared to people that are already medicated and, we'll say not optimal health. I don't want to call them sick, but they don't have optimal health. So your thyroid hormone levels are being compared to people that are already taking hormones or sick. There's no consensus or standard on what the thyroid hormone levels should be across the country from lab to lab. There's no consensus between the major organizations that set these ranges either. So the Endocrine Society, the American Thyroid Association, and then the American Academy of Family Physicians, all their ranges and their interpretation of these ranges are varied. So what are you to do, right? What's normal? That's why whenever I work with someone, what I do is I look at their lab range, because you do have to follow. If someone has high TSH, they have to have high TSH from their lab, right? From the labs that they have done, they have to be lab high to call them hypothyroid. what I do is I look at the lab ranges, because those are important, but I also look at what we call functional ranges, which are more narrow ranges that give us a better representation of what we believe to be ideal thyroid hormone physiology. So you start looking at some of these factors and you start just really wondering, like, no wonder, right? There's so much confusion. There's no consensus on a lot of these lab values. It's confusing, but I think it's really important that you guys understand how varied all of these ranges are, even amongst these groups that are, supposed to set these standards. No one can agree on what is what. So that's really, really important that you guys understand. They're different across across the country. The lab ranges are different across the country. You could be diagnosed hypothyroid in one state or from one lab, and the other lab will have a different range. And we see that all the time. I see that all the time here. Because I have an appointment at, let's see, about 10:30. So if you want to, I'll just kind of take a look and see what kind of questions you guys have. But what I want you to do, if you don't mind, guys, tell me where you're from. I love seeing where you guys are from, where you're, where you guys live, and just let me know what's if you have any questions. Hey, Kimberly. Yeah, there's no standard between doctors. That's true. That's true. There are people that, believe it or not, guys, I don't know if you've been exposed to this, but like there are anti-aging clinics, right? And there are some anti-aging clinics that you can just go into, and they'll just prescribe thyroid hormone for weight loss. You don't even have to be hypothyroid. They will just prescribe it for weight loss. And I'm just going to tell you now that that's probably not a good idea. That's just throwing hormones at your body when they might not be needed. I mean, what you need to do is, if you want to lose weight, you want to look at what's happening to the person. There's a lot of reasons, there's a lot of things that contribute to weight loss. And throwing a hormone at it randomly, just because it's designed to increase metabolism, is not necessarily a good idea. You can have a lot of negative consequences. You can actually suppress thyroid hormone, the thyroid hormone feedback mechanism to the brain. You can do a lot of damage. So that's not a good idea. With weight loss, there are a lot of things you got to consider. Yes, thyroid hormone quantity, thyroid hormone sensitivity. There's sex hormone issues, like, do you have adequate testosterone? Do you have adequate estrogen? Do you have proper adrenal function? What are your neurotransmitters like? That actually, like your acetylcholine. There's a lot more to it than, what's your mitochondrial health like? There's a lot more to it. From Kansas, hey, Florida. Go Patriots, hey Kim. Where are you guys from? Did you already tell me? Columbia. Oh no, Columbus, Georgia, I see. Missouri, Vermont, British Columbia, Lake Charles, Kentucky, Seattle, Brooklyn, Port Orange. Very cool, Port Orange. I remember Port Orange I remember when I had to write a report once on Thomas Edison. Port Orange, Colorado, Florida, Cleveland. There's Kim in Cleveland. Well, hey everybody, welcome. No, we're just talking. I just kind of, what I did was I went into a little bit of background on thyroid hormone levels and ranges, and how all of the major organizations, they don't have any kind of consensus between them. So I have them listed here. Just the Endocrine Society, the American Thyroid Association, the American Academy of of Family Physicians. They have all varied. They all disagree on what they think ideal thyroid hormone ranges should be. Lab to lab across the country, it's all different. Your ranges where you get your labs drawn are going to be different than, very, very likely different than here. So from lab to lab, they're different. Doctors interpret them differently. I've seen people prescribing hormones off-label. So I was mentioning something earlier about how I'd seen like anti-aging clinics literally just throwing thyroid hormone at people to lose weight, even though they're not hypothyroid, just trying to do something to push metabolism. Listen, guys, the best way to figure out how to help yourself is to try and understand what's breaking down in the body. That's what I try to do. I try to look at what's happening with the individual person, survey their physiology and chemistry, and determine what the problem is, and then let's work on that, instead of just randomly throwing things at symptoms. That's not the way to do it. It's just not. Hi, Arizona, Minnesota. Very cool. Hey, Bonnie. Hang in there. I know it's tough. It's tough. It feels like it's impossible to get better. It can be very challenging. One of the things I talked about in some other videos, which, you know, guys, I will kind of reiterate and talk about a lot of the things that are really, I think, important. And that's having, you know, trying to find that motivation to persevere even in the face of difficulties, in the face of failure, in the face of, you know, trying to change your diet, dealing with the difficulties that you might have there, dealing with the problems that can arise, and feeling like you're getting beat up. And that happens to all of us, and I know some people have it a lot more difficult. So we all have a lot to be thankful for if we're in relatively good health. There are less challenges, but you know, try to best that you can. Remember, it's a process. It takes time. Try to find your reason why. Right? Focus on why you want to be healthy, and write that down. You know, for me, there's a lot of different reasons, but you know, my family is really a motivating factor for me to try to want to be healthy, try to help people. You know, I want to be a good example for my children and do things like that. And so you got to find your reason why. A lot of times people, if they think about it, there's people in their life that they care about more than themselves, and that can be really motivating, and that can help give you some perspective and a desire to want to fight. And sometimes we need that. We need that. I remind myself of those things every morning. Every morning when I get up, every day at the end of the day when things feel like, you know, the world feels like it beats you up sometimes, and it's just one of those days. You got to remind yourself of those things that are really important to you. Good morning, Myrtle Beach. Hi, how you doing? 3 docs in 11 years to get you on Cytomel T3. Yeah, it's coming a long way. A lot of doctors don't realize, they don't, you know, they're very cautious. There's a lot of different philosophies and beliefs on different types of medications out there, and you know, you got to realize, before there was like Synthroid, right? Synthroid was like the first thyroid hormone that was considered to be standardized, right? Before Synthroid, there was all these desiccated hormones that were being given. So, you know, dried, you know, pig glands, that thyroid glands that were chopped up and pretty much prescribed, and there was no real standardization. And then Synthroid came along, and Synthroid, the doctors were marketed to, and they were told, hey, it's standardized, it's a uniform form of medication that you know what you're giving your patients, right? So they came in with saying they were the only one that was standardized, and now everyone is standardized, guys. If anyone's making thyroid hormones, it is extremely standardized. It does not vary from dose to dose. It is extremely well regulated and standardized, and all of them, desiccated hormones that are prescriptive, that are pharmaceutically manufactured, they're all standardized. Let's see, what else is going on? Guys, if you're new, if you're just jumping on here, tell me where you're from. We got anyone out of the country? I know the time zones vary, but doesn't matter. Okay. I'm just kind of reading some of your comments, guys. Okay. Man, there's some of your guys, I'm reading some of your comments, and they're just so complex, I can't even start to answer them. I'm sorry. Some of the questions are, I wish there were simple answers, guys, but some of them are so complex that with your question, I mean, they would require like a full history of your health, and then probably looking at labs you've had done to even comment on them. So I'm sorry. So let me mention one thing here. Where do we always start, right? So a lot of people are coming in and they're new. So where do we always start? Does anyone want to comment? Where am I going to tell people to start if you're new to this thyroid or autoimmune thing and you're trying to get healthy? Where am I going to tell people to start if I've never seen you? Can anyone? Hi, Jesse. I'm going to tell people to start with diet, right? That's going to be number one with me. I'm going to tell you to start with dietary changes and really looking at your diet. If we're going to, that's right, Michelle, diet's going to be the place. Crystal, exactly, diet is going to be the place. Kim, gut is not a bad place, but to address the gut, you have to start with the diet for most people. So, yes, diet is going to be the first place to start. What kind of diet am I going to recommend for most people if they're going to be, if they're just going to say, hey, what's a generalized diet I can try? What kind of diet do you think we're going to recommend to start working on your thyroid health if you haven't done anything else? Just to try, and especially if you're autoimmune, you have something like Hashimoto's or Graves' disease. So we're going to consider like the Autoimmune Paleo, right? That's going to be one of the things we're going to consider, AIP, Autoimmune Paleo. Paleo is good. I like Autoimmune Paleo variation more, and that tends to be a good place to start if you haven't. Jennifer, keto is not bad, but keto can be problematic for people that are hypoglycemic, and also for people that have gallbladder issues. If you have gallbladder problems, keto tends to be high in fat, like especially if you're doing like true keto, right, which is like really high fat. And that's not that it's a bad thing at all. I mean, I really like it, but I mean, if someone has gallbladder problems and you give them all that fat, man, they're going to be in a world of hurt. You can actually create some problems. I like keto though. I really, really like it. If you're healthy enough to do it, that's reasonable. But the reason I talk about AIP a lot and autoimmune paleo is because it tends to remove a lot of the common food allergens that people have in their diet. So AIP tends to be good. I know, Dawn, you know what? How to eat when you were young. Man, I was raised in the 80s, and we had all those I've told this before, but basically all those fat-free everything, diet everything, diet drinks, fat-free everything, artificial sweeteners everywhere, and that was a train wreck. We are now seeing the consequences of all that low-fat, processed junk food, basically, that we were given during the 80s. And you know what, guys? A lot of people today, even, they go gluten-free, right? They go gluten-free, and they're like, hey, I'm just going to go to the store and buy gluten-free stuff, and I'm going to be great. Not really. The food manufacturers have figured it out. They know that gluten-free is a movement, and guess what? They're doing everything they can to take advantage of that. So what they do is they take all the processed gluten out of their junk food, and they put other types of processed flour into their junk food, along with all the nasty preservatives and food colorings and other things that are not food into their food, and then they call it gluten-free, and everyone's like, oh, it's gluten-free, it's great, my kids can have it. Well, you're just giving them basically another highly processed non-gluten junk food. I'm just going to be straight up with you guys. That's exactly what's happening. And the best bet is eat whole, real foods. Eat real food. Don't eat this. The thing is like all these gluten-free foods, a lot of them now, they're still highly processed. They're loaded with sugar. They're just as addictive. They're terrible for our children. All these things we still have a major epidemic with obesity, diabetes, autoimmunity, and the food industry is a major they have major influence over politics and everything, and they're very intelligent people that are constantly looking for ways to keep their profits up and make money. So when they see a movement and a trend like gluten-free, they're going to jump on it. And so, I mean, though it's good if it's gluten-free, you got to look, because a lot of it's just junk food in disguise. It really is. Everything was basically all right until menopause was one of the comments that I just glanced at. Yeah, you'll see, guys, you'll see a lot of times that. So when does Hashimoto's most commonly start? Can anyone tell me? There's 3 times in let's use a woman for example, okay? And I'm sorry if there are men on here and you feel like I'm excluding you, but primarily I work with women. Men, it can happen at any time, but 2 of these pretty much are going to apply to you as a man. So what are the 3 times that we most commonly see? And I probably have to go. I do. But this will be the last thing I'll answer, guys. 3 things that we most commonly see 3 times in life when we see a woman develop Hashimoto's. Okay, so we've got one of them, which is going to be in the middle, if this is a timeline, and that is pregnancy. Karen, you win that one. You got that. So there's 2 more. Pregnancy is the most common. Menopause. All right. So Kristen got the menopause. And Crystal, high five. Puberty. Okay, so 3 times in a woman's life when we typically see Hashimoto's begin. All right, and this is puberty, pregnancy, and menopause. And now, why is that? Does anyone know why those are the 3 times? I mean, obviously someone's going to get at least part of it, right? It has to do with the shift in hormones, right? Shift in hormones. And what we know is like the shift in hormones, they influence the immune system cells. So the shift in hormones actually can change the type of immune system cells, and with the environmental factors at play, it is definitely, there's a time of life when we see an increased rate of Hashimoto's and autoimmunity in general. What is hormones? Yeah, let's see. Hormones. Yes, absolutely, hormones. The shift in the hormones tends to polarize the immune system, and for men, puberty, and then around what we consider andropause, right? So men have a point in their life too when they stop producing a lot of their male hormones, and that also, there's a shift in the hormones there. So absolutely. Hey, Crystal. So Crystal says, yeah, it was brought on immediately after cesarean. Yeah, it's definitely during that period of time when there's these shifting in hormones. So for sure, I don't know about the cesarean exactly, like the surgical procedure. There very well may be a connection to a procedure. I'm not positive. Hereditary. Dawn says, what about is it hereditary? Well, absolutely. So, guys, what are the factors that we believe are required for you to develop an autoimmune condition, right? So, you have to have, one, a genetic predisposition, right? So you have to have genes that predispose you to developing the autoimmune condition. And then what's the other thing though? You have to have something called intestinal permeability or leaky gut. So you have to have exposure to an environmental trigger, like let's say it's a food protein or it's bacterial lipopolysaccharides or LPSs. Let's just put it this way. Leaky gut that lets things into the bloodstream that trigger an immune response, and then a genetic susceptibility to developing the autoimmunity, and then you have the expression of the autoimmune condition itself, where your body starts making antibodies against something foreign that has a similar protein structure to your own body, and then you have this your immune system attacks your tissues as through like a mistaken identity. It's called molecular mimicry and cross-reactivity. It's another talk. Yeah, toxins, man. Karen says, hey, toxins, what about toxins? Yeah, toxins play a major role. Like we're seeing now with a lot of the immune testing and things that we're running, is that environmental toxins play a huge role. And if you guys get a chance to listen to Dr. Vojdani, Aristo Vojdani, he's an immunologist. He's his life's work is looking at his major contribution. I think he would agree. I've heard him say it anyway. That it is understanding better how the immune system reacts to environmental chemicals. And what we're finding is that when we're taking in these chemicals, like in plastics, for example, like BPA, bisphenol A, it's just one that a lot of people have heard about. That's the reason I mention it. That when you consume it or you ingest it or it gets into your body, the BPA, it's not that your body reacts to the chemical directly. It's just that the chemicals bind to human tissues, and they make what's called a neo or new antigen. So it's something new that the immune system doesn't recognize, and then your immune system reacts to it and attacks it. And it is becoming a much, much bigger problem, guys. I think that what we're going to do is, as we continue to learn about these environmental chemicals, we're going to realize just how unbelievably ubiquitous through our environment they are, and how polluted our bodies are. And there's already, if you go to the Environmental Working Group, it's a great website. The EWG, you guys should really support them. That's a great place to learn about cosmetics, learn about a lot of things going on that are impacting and potentially infringing upon our safety. They're great. It's a great website. Go there. E as in Edward, WG, environmentalworkinggroup.org. Great website. Go there and take a look at it. It's very, very good. Yeah, we should all be using glass. I mean, I have glass containers for my lunch. I use like the little Pyrex ones. Let's see. You guys want to see my... I'll show you my container. I don't even know what's in here, so... Okay. So here's my little container, right? Now it has a plastic top on it, but I don't heat it with a plastic top on it. So what I have is just this little glass container, right? You guys want to see my lunch? I'm so spoiled. I have such a good wife. So check it out. Does it look gross to y'all? Yeah, I love it. It's really, really good. So let me explain what I've got here, right? So I've got, so this is some chicken, right? So baked, maybe chicken, salt and pepper is primarily what's on there. I've got roasted broccoli. So if you've never had broccoli this way, I love it. I mean, it's my favorite way. So we just put it on like a baking sheet, put it in the oven, and it roasted. It's very, very good that way. And then I have, these are actually roasted sweet potatoes. They were roasted. They might not look beautiful here, but they taste really, really good. So these are sweet potatoes that are have been cut up and roasted on a baking sheet. Okay, so I realize, guys, it's time for me to go. I'm getting a message that I gotta go. But this is anyway. This is my lunch. I've got a few of these stacked in there. It's a great way to do it. Glass, right? It's safe. Best way to go. Drinking containers need to be glass or stainless steel. I prefer glass if you can do that. Get all the plastics out of your life, guys. I mean, a lot of people will even go as far to say, hey, when you go shopping for produce, don't use the plastic bags. Take your own bags, put the produce in those plastic bags, and eliminate it every way that you can possibly eliminate it, okay? So, guys, I really appreciate you. Yeah, I am, Jennifer, I am so lucky. I am so lucky. It's unbelievable. I am very fortunate, and I try not to take that for granted, ever. I do. You guys are so welcome. Ceramic is, Crystal, I think ceramic's probably fine. I don't know all the details, but I think it is. I think, you know, ceramics are going to be great. It's just really the plastics that we've got to watch out for. I hope this helps you out, guys. But listen, if you don't mind, I appreciate you guys if you would just like our videos, give me some hearts and love if you don't mind. Tell me again where you're from. I want to look back through the comments a little bit later. Just tell me where you guys are from. If anyone's new, jumped on here, or you haven't done it, just tell me where you're from. And if you would share these videos with people, because other people don't have a chance to hear about this stuff, and we hear it every day that the videos and the stuff that we're doing is new to people. And you got to think, there's a lot of people out there struggling, and if you guys will help us spread the message, it'll really help us to help other people and maybe save someone a lot of hardship. Okay, so we'll do what we can. But I really appreciate you guys so much. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope these are adding value to your life. And if you have any questions or anything, or you need anything from us, just reach out to us. But I appreciate you guys. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for joining me on live, and I'll see you soon. Hey guys, Dr. Shook, thank you for viewing our videos. I hope they help you out. If you want to, just subscribe to our channel somewhere here. You can watch a video that YouTube's actually selected for you, so hopefully it'll help you out. If you need any other information or resources, just look in the description. We've got links to our website, to our 9 lab test guidebook, and everything else that we do. I really appreciate you, and I hope you guys have a great